Right, you're live with us here on the Newsfeed late night, and your reporting continues. Now, last week's by-elections saw the ANC winning most of the awards contested on the 19th of May. What do the recent by-elections imply regarding voter confidence for the ANC, especially ahead of the local government elections? Joining me now to unpack this and other issues, ANC Head of Elections, Fikile Mbalula. You're a part of the conversation tonight on Twitter at Newsroom405. WhatsApp your questions and your comments to 072-110-5584. Mr. Mbalula, good evening and thank you very much for your time.
Good evening to yourself and all the listeners of Newsroom. Good evening. Thank you for having us.
I know you've already said it is, of course, humbling to see the level of confidence that the electorate continues to demonstrate in the leadership of the ANC. Would you say these results set the tone of what would be expected in the upcoming local government elections?
We don't want to claim easy victories, and we are happy about our renewal program. We are happy that it's making an impact, slowly but sure. From where we started in November, the biggest, the ANC managed to win and defend its base. Following also the by-elections twice for this year, we have been winning, and we have also made inroads in the side of the opposition. That is good for the African National Congress.
There is a specific challenge, though, which maybe one could look at as a hindrance in a certain way, that out of the 300,000 people that were expected to turn out for these elections, only 31.9% turned up. I mean, there are some who are saying people just didn't show up because they were afraid of the pandemic. And the announcement of the third wave and its timing would have been particularly a challenge for many people who would have wanted to participate in the by-elections.
By-elections in their very nature, it doesn't start now. They don't attract a big number of people. But if you look at the number that turn out, it is a number that can give you confidence in terms of being voted back into power. But in their very nature, you don't get to register bigger numbers because it's not a protracted election campaign. It is a campaign that runs for a very short period of time, and then the people then tend to focus on local issues where they are. And in this particular instance, you've got to look at the mood, because the mood continues to be in favor of the ANC, irrespective of, even among others, negativity that we attract as an organization, which some of it is self-inflicted by us, and we nonetheless do well. So under the circumstances that we're in and confronted with by-elections like this, the mood would have been telling a different thing altogether, where people will be saying, go away. But in this instance, they still stick with the African National Congress, which is positive.
Yeah. That's not what voting study would tell you. I mean, voting study would tell you that people would want to vote when they really do believe that their vote will make a difference. And in this particular instance, the feeling is that a significant number of those, for example, who were supposed to vote were at work. They're the working class, and they were really not going to take time off work to come and participate in the by-elections. And had they actually been a part of them, there would have been a significant change in these election results. Would you agree with that?
There would have been change. It depends from where you stand against or for the ANC, because the numbers that turned up show that people have confidence in the African National Congress. So we can't predict that those who did not come, if they did, then it will mean something else. So where is the opposition? These elections are tough. I mean, we campaign with people who are actually campaigning very hard and want to take every opportunity to showcase that the ANC is a losing party. But instead, the ANC have made inroads even in the backyard of the opposition. So that is what this election is actually telling us. And it then tells us good news for us going forward. But we don't think we have arrived. Yeah. We think we're still far in terms of where we want to be when you talk about ANC victory. But we are encouraged by the confidence that people every turn show towards the African National Congress.
But don't you think that a greater voter turnout will make the electorate more representative of the greater population?
It will. Unfortunately, you've got to work for those numbers to come out. And there's a whole lot of factors when it comes to by-elections. It's during the week, people are at work, they come back late, they are tired. So eligible voters, some of them don't end up voting on the by-elections. And depending on the campaign you are executing, others don't actually turn up. So it is the responsibility of every party to mobilize its base. We have done our job, and we have even gone beyond our own base and won in territories that don't belong to us. We have defended our base successfully, which means the voters of the ANC are loyal, and we keep attracting better numbers even outside. In this instance, how do you weigh that? You weigh that by winning the wards that belong to the opposition, and without losing yours. In this instance, we have won at every turn from the side of the opposition, and we have defended successfully.
Would you say South Africa, for example, because of course we need a cure for the low voter turnout, would benefit from having compulsory voting laws, like, for example, those that are adopted in Australia?
I think it's still early days. We can't make that determination simply because of a by-election. A by-election is important, but it's not as important as the election that are declared like October 27, because we are going to ensure that that day people are given space to go and cast their vote. So nobody goes to work normally on the election day. But for by-election, it will be very difficult to pass such laws of saying that it is compulsory for people to go and vote. I think the task of the political parties and the IEC is to continue to teach people, which is a civic duty, about the responsibility to vote. Certain sections of our society, irrespective of whether they win or they lose, but they vote consistently. Because this thing of voting has been part of their DNA for many years. But even though it was to the exclusion of the majority, but you can see it. In 27 years, you've got calls like, why should I vote, and the others and discouraging people from voting. And yet voting is your democratic right, it's civic duty you perform. And, advanced democracies have shown that democracy never dies. It is revived from time to time, and South Africa is no exception. Instead, every election rekindle that sort of interest into the voting process. We have to keep working on that, and it also depend on the campaigns that you undertake. If people, for instance, they can be complacent and say, which is our support base, we know the ANC will win, and they don't go, and so on. We know that that will affect us negatively. So that is why we go all out to encourage our supporters and also people who believe in the ANC to come out all the time and vote for the African National Congress.
Is it the position of the ANC to get to those loyal votes at any cost? I mean, to the point where you've seen it played out in the media, in social media, you participated in it, in that debate of ANC members, one MEC in Gauteng, saying, well, we're going to go and support small business and buy chicken feet, right, for $30, and saying it's all for the vote. I mean, is that the extent to which you go by to get that loyal support, and is it akin or equivalent to vote buying?
No, it is not vote buying. That video, I've had to look at it as head of the elections because I also joined the chorus to condemn those comrades. But when I got the entire video, I realized that they were cartooned, actually, because I was on the journey talking to the DSG that the ANC can be associated with that. Our program of renewal does not agree that members of the ANC, especially at leadership level who are expected to lead, can verbose such diatribe. So we realize that, no, it's a distortion because it's a campaign. You take small things and turn them around. But because we are in a campaign, we've got to master the art of communication because such activities, chop and changed and cartooned, like that video of Faith and Loiso, it can basically project the ANC as this party that doesn't care, that is arrogant. In fact, the child in that video was eating those chicken runaways with them. And so that thing was not said directed to the voter. And then it was simply said that out of hard work and what we do and all of that, for the sake of the elections, this is the work that you've got to endure, referring to themselves, not to the general public, as though somebody was saying that we buy these chicken runaways for the sake of the elections. No, it was inward looking. So it's something difficult to explain when you are facing a barrage and you are a party that is under siege with all sorts of negative accusations in terms of its image that is battered. So we want our members to be circumspect and knowing very well that at this moment we are the most vulnerable. Anything we do, we say, can be subjected to distortion and to defame the African National Congress. And any behavior that seeks to undermine the image and the integrity of the ANC, we act without hesitation. Like I said to you, I went back, review all the video of it all, and I saw it that no, it was indeed, I satisfied myself and with the team of the ANC communication that no, this is a total distortion and fabrication. In fact, for somebody who have simply cartooned, take part of the video and projected these comrades as arrogant, not caring, and simply saying that for the sake of the vote. And by the time we tried to address that, it was all over the media. We've got to address social media and the distortions in the campaign and also negative campaigning and so on. You are not going to win votes by simply doing things, even if you're a member of the ANC, against the opposition and distort the opposition and focus on other things other than what affect our people. Where our members have done things that are wrong, the holiday of defending wrongness is over in the African National Congress. I can tell you without any shadow of doubt that we would have acted on that video if we came across that indeed what was being projected out there was as it is.
ANC Head of Elections with us tonight, Fikile Mbalula, to be a part of the conversation. You can, of course, tag us on Twitter at Newsroom405. WhatsApp your questions and your comments tonight to 072-110-5584. The Newsfeed Late Night will continue for you in a moment. Come back with us here on the Newsfeed Late Night, and we continue in our conversation with ANC's Head of Elections, Fikile Mbalula. You're a part of the conversation tonight on Twitter at Newsroom405. You can WhatsApp your questions and your comments to 072-110-5584. So, Minister, let's talk about this debate that is currently ongoing. There are some in the Democratic Alliance who are saying, well, they will protect the constitution and the democracy, with everything that they have, that the elections must go on, because if we postpone these local government elections, we set a precedent. However, the IEC has now appointed the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke to review whether or not the upcoming local government elections will be free and fair. Were you able to campaign effectively within the constraints of COVID-19 during these past two by-elections? And does that give you the confidence that you will then be able to unpack and carry out your whole entire campaign leading up to October?
As the African National Congress, we are not in favor of the synchronization of local government elections with national elections beginning of 2024. We are, however, for the postponement if science dictate that we postpone the elections because of the material condition. We want the vote, but not at the expense of our people. We want to be voted, but if it is going to affect health-wise the population, and we think the IEC will support if they follow the prescript of the electoral law, and also within the PLC bring such proposal, or whoever want to bring that up to investigate. So we're not opposed to Judge Dikgang Moseneke's process, as long as that will be concluded on time, because we plan elections. We are 5 months now to the elections, 27 October, and it is quite responsible for the IEC to do such a thing, and also use the yardstick of the by-elections and all of that. But from the question that you ask, we did well under the circumstances. Our campaign has not been a campaign that emphasized filling up of stadiums and all of that, big numbers. We have been under the circumstances, we have been in a position to maneuver and get people out to vote. So we think we can make it. You know, we are in favor for the elections to continue. We have reflected on the matter at the level of the National Executive Committee, and the collective of the NEC said elections must go ahead, and we are in favor of that. We are not opposed to the election as it is now. We are preparing ourselves for a humdinger of an election. So that's what we're about, and we are working day in and out as a ruling party in government to ensure that we change perceptions, but not only that, we address service delivery issues facing our people, because everybody look at the ANC and say that the ANC fails to do this and to do that. We are focused on getting public representatives, candidates, and all of that. So we are hard at work in terms of elections. So should the elections be postponed, the IEC will approach the Constitutional Court and propose that elections be postponed, but not up until 2024, up until we satisfy ourselves that within this reasonable period, elections can actually be held. So we are not opposed to Judge Moseneke's process. We support the postponement if it is guided by science. We are not for synchronization 2024.
Now you speak of perceptions, and as head of elections in the ANC, would you say the perceptions, for example, around the squabbles going on currently within the ANC around the suspension of the Secretary General, him in turn saying, no, I suspend the President, him in turn saying, no, I'm taking this organization to court. We're seeing, for example, some of the previous ministers, like Minister Gigaba, being at the Commission of Inquiry, and the allegations that are been going back and forth, coming out of his wife or estranged wife. We speak of the various heads of the ANC in the provinces who have stepped down. Does this paint a picture of integrity within the leadership of the ANC?
The ANC have decided to intensify its renewal program from the last conference. What will weigh in our favor is to what extent have we gone to preserve and defend our integrity amidst all these things you are talking about? Have we been lax and behave like as if these things don't exist? And our movement have stepped up and to implement those resolutions that deal with matters that affect integrity. All these challenges that we are facing, which some are self-inflicted, people protesting for this and that, about decisions of the organization that have been taken, the ANC have got to ensure that the center holds. And it has demonstrated that. A Zondo Commission has come because we are a ruling party that have agreed that we need to do self-introspection and renew ourselves. And Zondo Commission came about. We knew that it's not going to be nice. It's going to implicate most of our cadres who served in government, who probably will have to explain themselves about issues of the state capture, which is what is happening. So we are not shocked. We are encouraged by the work that the Commission is doing and getting to the bottom of this. We could not just fold and say that this thing will resolve itself. Something had to be done about it. And in this instance, we've got a Commission that is doing a superb and a wonderful job, and is saying things that some are earth-shattering, but it's education. When you are a political party in power, these are things that we characterize as sins of incumbency. And those sins of incumbency, you don't have to internalize them. You've got to do away with them and say that this should not happen. I'm sitting here today as a minister knowing that in my position bestowed to me by the leadership of the ANC and the president, that we cannot go business as usual and continue to do things like they used to happen before, where it is like ministers almost surrendered the state to, backpackers. And at the same time, you forgot that you owe it to your oath, and at the same time to the people who appointed you, and to behave like you are fit and proper to be in those positions. So we learn, and we learn never to repeat. So to us, is renewal or death. We choose renewal. And if we don't renew, that is the demise of the ANC. The ANC will die. And we refuse that the ANC die in our hands. It doesn't matter. Whatever others feel like, look, it affects us negatively, as long as it is a decision of the movement, and is in the interest of the movement, they will be implemented, those decisions.
Now, the Gauteng ANC PEC has apologized to two of its members, Kusela Diko and Dr. Bandila Masuku, for suspending them without following due process. In these tools of renewal, are these tools being used in a wrong way and maliciously at this particular point?
We are on guard that nothing should be abused against members of the ANC. And that is why when we adopt rules, which have been adopted by the National Conference, we have said they must be implemented across. They shouldn't be blind. Others see them as an attack on somebody. We said no. Many of our cadres, who some of them are good comrades, in many ways have been affected by this rule. So any one of us who fall on this, and there is a rule that says this, they must subject themselves to the processes of the organization. So Bandile and Kusela subjected themselves first to the legal framework of this country in terms of allowing the state to pursue its case through its institutions, like SIU and all of that. Apart from that, they allowed the ANC processes to kick in. Now those processes have kicked in. They believed in those processes, and they themselves feel that they've been treated unfairly. and those processes have been thorough, and they've actually exonerated them. It is only fair where you have erred to actually apologize. So don't use the Constitution to trample over the rights of others, particularly the ANC Constitution. The ANC Constitution also is a constitution of members with rights. So we don't want a kangaroo court where people no. Processes of the organization also must make us members of the ANC feel at home. Not that I'm going to appear before a kangaroo court and all of that. So they believed in these processes, and the processes of the movement have finally pronounced on them, and we abide by that. So we respect them, Kusela and Masuku, because they subjected themselves to this. Masuku lost his job, which it was a privilege for him to have it as an MEC. And Kusela was suspended at work, suffered a great deal as a result of these processes. But at no stage did they say, we've got no confidence in the ANC and we are leaving. They believe in themselves, and that is why they kept on asking the higher structures. They appealed, put across their case. And this is what we expect of all members. But there are rules that are non-negotiable, and they will not even take you to the DC, like step aside. 25.70 will not even allow you to appeal, because it says, Imala etaleni kancinci hlehla.
Is that the reason why the Secretary General was not given that opportunity to state his case in the last special LEC meeting, to appeal? I suppose he's stepping aside?
No, the NEC is not an appeal. He might have appealed, and then he stated that he has appealed. There are rules in the Constitution that clarify when you have appealed what is your standing, and those rules are saying the status quo remains, all right, up until your case is heard by the appeals committee, and that was explained to him. So he have embarked on a different process, and that process is the street. So the street has got no rules. The ANC has got rules. You fight within, and then those processes will either exonerate you or affirm that no, everything else is on track. The SG started at the Integrity Commission, and then he left the Integrity Commission, and then the process of the step aside kicked in, and they asked for 30 days. 30 days was granted. So it is not running roughshod over members, including himself. They were given 30 days. After 30 days, they then decided to go to court instead of stepping aside and subjecting themselves to the discipline of the organization. So that organizational process has not been exhausted like it is the case with Loyiso and them. There will be many of these cases going into the future. We are a big political party with huge responsibilities, and we are in power. And some of our people get to be affected by this and that, given how they conduct themselves when they are given responsibilities. So our responsibility is huge, and we don't take that for granted. That is why we have stepped up our game when it comes to renewal. So to us, is renewal or death, because that majority will never be with us forever and ever. It can be taken away from us. We have seen in other revolutions where people fought and won their self-determination, the masses threw them out of the window because of arrogance, because of not listening, and because of refusing to renew. The ANC is a big political party. It has come into power for about 27 years. Nothing wrong to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, where are we getting it wrong? And accept and correct. And this is what we're doing. It's painful. It's not easy. It is difficult.
ANC Head of Elections there, Fikile Mbalula. Stay with us. We'll come back. We'll take some social media questions tonight on Twitter at Newsroom 405 or WhatsApp your questions and comments to 072-110-5584. The Newsfeed Late Night continues next. Welcome back. You're with us here on the Newsfeed Late Night, and we're with the head of elections of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, and we've seen some of your WhatsApp messages as well as on Twitter tonight. And let's start with some of them, Minister. Let's start with one I'm seeing here on Twitter about some continued allegations of election rigging. I mean, is there any veracity to those claims of ID books on the floor and so on and so forth?
Election rigging must be reported to the IEC, and the way it is found, it must be dealt with within the context of the PLC. We have seen this message is circulating on Twitter and social media about IDs and election rigging. But from the elections where they've been declared ward by ward, district by district, we have not come across anything that seems to suggest that we were involved in any vote rigging. So we've got tough checks and balances within the system for anyone to be left, unchecked when it comes to rigging. Our system is tight. Political parties, those who contest, are allowed to oversee, and they participate, including in the declaration of the vote by the IEC at the center where the counting is taking place. So anything else that happens outside the borders of the IEC, and it is a criminal act like IDs we have seen, we need to understand what are those IDs for and all of that. But at the present moment, we have not gotten anything that seems to suggest this had to do with election vote rigging.
Let's look at some questions on Twitter from Kia in Randburg. Mr. Mbaks, can you agree with me that the ANC is not winning because people trust it, but it wins because people are afraid to start afresh? What kind of renewal is the ANC doing with old people?
No, I think when you are on Twitter and you are on social media like most of us, you may think that the ANC will be out of power. And for some political parties, if Twitter was anything to go by, they should have long won the election, and they should have long occupied Union Building. But it doesn't work like that. Voters get to be convinced. Voters, you speak to them on the ground, and voters can see for themselves what is wrong and what is right. And if we are going to conceal our wrongs and believe in our own propaganda, that's when the masses of our people will desert the ANC. But the ANC that confront issues, that confront difficulties, it is the ANC that the people love. That does not mask difficulties, and confront them. That is the ANC the people will trust. The ANC that talks to the people, that make it a point that every decision-making process, including when it comes to its public representatives, resonate with the mass of our people, that ANC will win the hearts and minds of the people. So you will be shocked when you are on Twitter, because you are like all of us. Twitter is for armchair critics. It is not something that is of people who really understand what's happening on the ground. Somebody could be on Twitter speaking from New York, from the rooftop, and then criticize what is happening in Mzansi. And somebody could just be sitting there not doing anything, and so on. Now, the person who experience government work and the ANC work on the ground, interacting with ANC people on the ground, seeing them doing something in changing their lives, that person's attitude towards the ANC will be different from the armchair critic on Twitter and Facebook.
All right. What is your view of the smaller party? Shedrack on Twitter asking this question. He says, do you think the presence of Action SA in Johannesburg is a threat for the ANC, and are you concerned with the EFF? And are you even concerned with the IFP, I might add, especially in the ward that you lost in KZN?
No. we respect political parties, and we know that smaller political parties, especially in terms of our system of local government, they benefit a lot. And we know where the ANC dropped the numbers, we become the biggest loser. We lost Johannesburg because we could not get outright majority. But we did get the numbers. We won all the wards, but we lost. And political parties then ganged up against us in the coalition, and they voted us out, putted us out of power. And they got those numbers through PR. Now, we drafted that system, and we knew as a majority party it will work against us, but we were addressing the notion that the ANC is arrogant and drunk with power and will want to undermine smaller political parties. We designed, we conceptualized, and implemented and voted this system that benefits these political parties. So we respect them. And it is a contestation, it's a democracy. We fought for democracy. We are Democrats as the African National Congress. We are Democrats. We are not afraid to take decisions because we are afraid they can affect us negatively because we want to win power at all costs. We subject everything to the will of the people. That's what we do. And many will not want to agree with us about this. But that is the reality. Where else will you go in the world where the political party is dominant and will still, adopt democratic mechanisms